On April 10th, 2024, my son Theodore was diagnosed with autism. He's 2 years old. He turned 2 January 30th, 2024. It has been a really hard process for me. It's been something I've been going through for the last 5 months, and it's been a journey that God's really taken my heart through a lot of different stages, and I feel like I'm finally in a good place to talk about it and share my experience. That being said, I'm not an expert on autism. I really don't know anything about autism. I only know about what applies to my son. This is not like an expert video or a comprehensive video. It's just more about the journey I've been through, how he got diagnosed, and how God's like worked on my heart through this, like the different feelings and emotions I've gone through during this process, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that has. If that's something that you're going through, and to make one person feel less alone in a situation that can feel very isolating, and hopefully share some things that have really helped me. When I noticed a big change in Teddy met all of his milestones for his first year of life, for the most part. He did have a problem sitting up, but I've learned since from the neurologist that not sitting up well is actually not a sign of autism, so that could be another thing that might be an issue. But other than that, hit every milestone, talked like at the normal pace, picked up words at the normal pace. At 14 months old, I had a second son, so I had 2 babies under 2, and when I had my second son, my older son Theodore stopped talking. It wasn't like the day that I brought him home, but I'd say first 3 weeks of Oliver being home, Teddy stopped talking. I noticed it, but I thought it was a reaction to his brother coming home. He had a huge life event, a new brother. I was in the hospital for a week. He went through a lot of life changes. I had a C-section, so I couldn't hold Teddy for 6 weeks. We went from, I'm a stay-at-home mom, me doing everything for Teddy, to other people helping with Teddy so that I could take care of my newborn. And I think it was just very traumatic for him. I have so many videos that I've saved of like him doing things that he just stopped being able to do at like a month later. Like when he met his brother Oliver, I have this video that I'll share. He's meeting Oliver for the first time, and he says Oliver, and he says yay. I'll share that video now.
Teddy, there's your brother Oliver.
He's like, I just want to get out this chair.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah, Oliver. Why don't you show him his legs? Pull him closer to him.
So he was talking, and then basically he stopped talking. That was something that I was concerned about with the pediatrician straight out the gate, but I said, like, how do you encourage your child to talk? I watched a ton of videos on how to encourage your child to talk. I narrated everything we did. I labeled things. I told him about our day. I tried to like ask him questions and pause for like him to be able to speak. I would sound things out for him. If I wanted him to say more, I'd be like, more, and stuff like that. And none of those techniques were showing any improvement in his speaking. That was something that I was very concerned about. But I really did believe during this time that was just a reaction to his brother coming home, not anything more. I did not think there was anything else going on with Teddy. Oliver was born in April. Now in October, my husband went away for business for 2 months. We were all supposed to go to Korea for my husband's job. And then a week before the trip, my husband's job ended up that we couldn't go. Me and the kids couldn't go. I was very concerned at the time with Matt leaving and the life change of that, because I knew that Teddy had had such a bad reaction to Oliver coming home, or in my mind, he had such a bad reaction to Oliver coming home. And he's very attached to his dad. I thought, oh no, what's gonna be the new thing that's gonna come up when his dad is gone? For the month of October, we spent in Texas, but in the month of November, I went to Florida to stay with my parents because I didn't want to be alone anymore. I didn't want to be in my house alone with both my kids. It was just like too depressing for me. So when we went to Florida, my twin sister also lives in Florida, and she has 3 daughters ranging from 14 to 1.5 now. Her daughter Alma is 5 months younger than Teddy. She has more experience with children. Like, I've nannied and stuff, but like I never paid attention to milestones. I'm not a mom. Like when you're not someone's mom, even if you're around kids a lot, you don't really notice or pay, at least I didn't, milestones. And another thing we were doing at this time was we were watching Miss Rachel, because that was another thing I was trying to, so if I did need to use the TV, I would put on Miss Rachel, because I figured then that was at least educational for him and would encourage speaking, because they do that like zoomed in mouth stuff, and it's supposed to be encouraging speaking, which none of those things changed anything for him. I still do those things. I still do all the things I talked about. I just, know that's not enough. When we got to Florida, Teddy started presenting what now I know as like hallmark autistic symptoms pretty significantly. He was always a toe walker, but that doesn't always mean autism. And he would sometimes hand flap, but not like when he was in Florida. I think between his dad leaving and then us going to Florida and being a totally different environment, totally different house with totally different people, I think it sent him over the edge. And to be fair, I was not in a good place either, so I'm sure that stress also affected him. I created a meal planning guide plus 60 recipes that I made up myself that are so delicious and easy to make. If you're looking for learning how to meal plan or you're just looking for new recipes, click the link in my bio and purchase my meal planning guide called Homemade. It would greatly help my family and support us. I know it will bless you. He was constantly hand flapping, constantly jutting out his jaw, arching his back, like tiptoe walking. Like it was very extreme. It was very extreme. But again, I just thought of it as like his way of dealing with the stress of the environment, which it is his way of dealing with the stress of the environment, but it is like hallmark signs, not that it means that your kid's autistic, but if they're doing these things, those are some things to present to the doctor. Both my mom and my twin sister came to me separately and told me that they had concerns that Teddy might be autistic and that I should get him evaluated. I will never forget the day that my twin sister told me that she thought he was autistic. I was completely blindsided. I never in a million years thought that my son was autistic. I was extremely upset when she said that, and I was upset especially because she said it in front of him, and I feel like kids are a lot more aware of things. Now I realize, like, what does autism mean? Like, he's 2 years old. He doesn't have a reference of what being autistic could mean. It was my own negative feelings about it, but I still don't love talking about children as if they're not there in front of children. That's just a personal thing. We were driving back from Orlando and she said, I was like, absolutely not. I do not think that he's autistic. And the reasons I didn't think he was autistic was because he makes strong eye contact with me. I feel extremely connected to him. I feel like he understands me when I speak to him. I do not feel like he's always off in his own world. I think he would like understand when I would talk to him and follow the direction that I would say. Like if he walked out of a room, I'd be like, Teddy, I can't see you. And he would come back into the room. Now that being said, I can see now more clearly the areas that he does fall into the spectrum. I always thought he was like a very independent player. I thought that because he is very happily occupies himself. And I always thought he was just like a really independent player. Like he just likes being by himself. He's an introvert. He's shy. And I do think those are aspects of his personality. I just think that there is, obviously he's been diagnosed with autism. There is more to that than just him being an independent player. When she said this to me, then I became hyper fixated every night. Like I lost so much sleep. I was already under so much stress. This is the one. I wish they would have brought these concerns to me not while my husband was away. I understand why they did and I appreciate that they did. Can't be mad at the messenger, but I just felt the timing of it on top of everything else. Like when I wasn't in Texas, so it's not like I could just take him to my pediatrician. I was in Florida for the month. I was already going through so much. I was solo parenting 2 babies by myself with no extra help, and it was so hard and horrible, and I already felt so vulnerable and alone. The timing just was not great. If you are a person that is concerned that someone in your life or a small child in your life may be autistic, try to think about the timing of sharing those things. I don't think there's anything wrong with sharing it. I just think that sometimes you should be mindful of the situation, because for me that was horrible timing. I already wasn't sleeping. I already was struggling with like a lot of other things, with like my husband being gone, feeling so alone and isolated, and then now on top of losing sleep over my husband being gone and like worries over that, then I wasn't sleeping because I was worried about my son, constantly playing things over in my head. Was I missing something? Was I not noticing something? Truly concerned, because I love my son and I just want the best for him. When we got back to Texas from Florida, I immediately took him to the pediatrician. I had made a list of things that I had observed that I was concerned about. Predominantly it was the speaking, because in December he turned 2 January 30th, and I knew he was coming up to 2 years old, and I was comparing him to other 2-year-olds I saw online, and I was like, he's really not talking as much as those other 2-year-olds. And another thing that concerned me was through watching Miss Rachel, she shares a lot about gestures, and Teddy does not do any gestures. Really never has, other than hand clapping. He used to hand clap. Pointing, waving, nothing like that. And those were things I tried to get him to do previous to this, like in the months that I was also trying to get him to talk more. Those were concerns of mine. And then I also talked about the hand flapping, the jutting out, the arching of his back, the toe walking. So another symptom that he had was that especially to other people, he would not answer to his name. So if like, I would say it'd be 80-20 answering to his name. 80% of the time he wouldn't answer to his name, 20% he would. And especially other people. Like for me, if I said, Teddy, I can't see you, he'd come back in the room. But like, say my mom would call his name, he wouldn't look. I didn't realize that's not normal. I just thought he was shy and introverted. That was another sign of autism. Another thing that he did that I didn't notice until we started going to therapies is that he doesn't play with toys the way they're meant to be played with. He didn't ever try to do what I was doing and model that. Like, you know how some kids will take care of a baby and like wash the baby and whatever. That was not something that he would ever do. But I didn't think like that was weird for a little boy. But one thing that he did do that he really liked like was cars. But neurotypical, I'm trying to use the right verbiage. I'm not, as I said, an autism expert, so I'm going to say things that might be offensive or uneducated, and it's because I'm uneducated on autism. I am not an expert. I don't really know anything. I'm only an expert on the journey that we're going through currently. Something a neurotypical kid would do is play with a toy the way it's meant to be played with, or like push a car, but Teddy would look at the wheels, or just like look the car itself, not try to like push the car. When he would play, he was more like sensory experiencing than actually playing. But I didn't realize that because he just was engaging with toys. He was still engaging with toys. He wasn't lining them up or anything like that. He was just kind of looking at them and like walking around with them. And that's another thing. He also paced a lot. Again, just thought he liked walking. Like I like walking, so I just thought he liked walking. The pediatrician, I told her my concerns. She observed him, and she's also known him since he was a baby. And she said that she thought that he was potentially autistic and that the next step was to get him an ADOS assessment, get him into therapies, physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy, as well as an appointment with a neurologist. I got an ADOS assessment like almost 2 days later. It was incredibly quick. We were able to get in very fast for the ADOS assessment. I did not like my experience with the ADOS assessment, and I honestly don't know if it was just because I was so resistant to the idea of him being autistic, because at this time I still really didn't believe he was autistic. I just thought he had delays, and if he had some help, he would catch up very quickly, because he, at 14 months, hadn't started walking yet, so we took him to physical therapy to help him get started walking, and within 3 weeks of him doing physical therapy and them showing me the exercises to do at home with him, he started walking. So I was like, oh, it's gonna be like that. He's not talking right now. We'll go to 3 things of speech. They'll tell him, teach me what I need to do. We'll do it at home, and he'll be talking again. This is what my mind's thinking. So I'm like, great, let's do all these therapies. He'll be A-okay. He'll be caught up, and then we'll be good. We do the ADOS assessment, and he got scored moderate to severe autism, which I was like, okay, I don't believe that. Like, I don't know. I just, in my head, I was like, no, he's not so cool, but no. I wasn't also trying to fight experts. I was just like, in my heart, he's not. So we're going to keep moving forward on this path. Like, I never was like, he's not, and I'm going to stop doing like the next right thing. I followed the recommendations of other people because I trusted them. I knew he needed help because I had been trying for what really like assured me to keep going forward was I had been trying for a year to get him to speak more, and we made no progress. And I did not want another year to go past where he didn't make any progress. So even if I didn't think he was autistic, I knew he needed help. We couldn't get an evaluation for OTPT and ST until January. So this was in December. We got the 2 evaluations from the doctor, and I called the neurology pediatrician, and they couldn't see us till April. We had until April, and at the time I was like, that's great. We'll wait until April to get this assessment. I wanted it sooner. I was anxious for a neurologist to look at him because I wanted peace that he wasn't autistic. I wanted someone to tell me he wasn't autistic. But I also was like, okay, well, if we have until April, then he'll have all these therapies by then, and he'll be like talking and everything will be corrected. The neurologist will see him and say, oh yeah, he's not autistic. We did the speech evaluation, and the speech therapist told me she thought he was autistic. I was kind of blown away. The reason I was more blown away with the speech versus the person who did the ADOS is because the ADOS person I did not feel like engaged with Teddy well, whereas the speech person really engaged with Teddy, and I feel like saw Teddy for who he really is, because he is shy on top of everything. She saw that he does make eye contact sometimes and he can do certain things, and she still came to the conclusion that she felt he was autistic, and that like really hurt my heart. It was like a constant dying to myself. You know what it was? It was like dying to the vision I had wanted for Teddy that needed to die for me to embrace who Teddy is and like where Teddy's at, and instead of having a vision for him, now I accept him for who he is right now, what he's capable of right now. I know what we need to work on right now, and I try not to project too much forward. Because during this season, I fell into a deep depression. I had already been depressed because his dad was away for 2 months for work, and I was very much blindsided by that. I had a really hard time with being alone, postpartum, 2 under 2, not sleeping through the night because my son Oliver was up 2 to 4 times a night, and then I had all this anxiety over everything I had been going through. So on top of that, I just wasn't sleeping. And then when my husband came back, all this stuff with the autism was like in full gear, and I lost so much sleep over that. And every night I would be like sick with worry. I would be sick with worry, like with racing thoughts about like what his life was going to be like, and like worst outcomes, and really like projecting into the future and things I just can't control or know or see. And I won't know or see until he just gets older and things go on. And I was really riddled with worry, and God really put on my heart, this is like the main message of this video: good moms don't worry. That was powerful for me because I think I thought I was being like this loving mother by being so sick with worry over my son and sick with worry over like the situation. But in reality, that wasn't helping anyone or anything. Me worrying literally did nothing but create more distress for myself, my husband, and my son. For my son to have the best outcomes possible, I need to believe that he can have the best outcomes possible. Part of that is not having a timeline or things that he needs to achieve or accomplish, but just seeing progress in him is enough. And the reason I'm able to have that healthy of a perspective now is because we've been in therapy since January. It's May now. So we've been in therapy for 5 months, 3 times a week. I have seen him progress. I've seen him do things that he was not able to do with me encouraging him on my own. And I know and believe that he's capable of progressing even further. He is still not speaking. He's still not doing some of the things that I'd like him to be doing. But I know that it's all going to be okay, because another thing God's put on my heart in this situation is that God uniquely chose me to be Theodore's mother. If he believes that I'm like, as the person that was out of the billions of people in the world that could have been his mom, God chose me to be Theodore's mom, and that means that he's going to equip me the best to handle whatever Theodore needs. I just need to trust in that and trust in God helping me make these choices. There's so many decisions that I'm making in this season, and one of the prayers that I pray often is, Lord, help me make wise choices. That's really helped me feel peace in this season, because at the end of the day, I don't know everything. There's so much, as I said, I don't know, and I am so new at, and I'm struggling, and I'm still trying to learn. God has really given me peace in turning my choices over to him, and in trusting that if God lets me make a mistake, then that mistake was meant to be made to learn a greater lesson. And I can't like hold everything together, because I was getting really hyper fixated on, if I do all the right things, then Teddy's gonna have this outcome. And that is not the case. Yes, I do need to encourage him. I need to help him. I need to have him in these therapies, but I don't have control over everything, and trying to get getting too controlling over the outcomes of the situation doesn't make me happier. It doesn't make my son happier. And I need to believe that my son is capable of things, because there was also this thing where I fell into feeling like, well, he's autistic, so I'm not even going to try and get him to do that because I know he can't. You know what? He can't right now, but I need to believe that he's capable of it, and I need to believe that if I encourage and try, he can get there. Because if I don't believe it, I'm his mother. I care about him the most. No one else is going to. I need to believe it, and that belief needs to come from me. I'm the head coach of this team. I'm the leader because I'm the common connector with all of his therapists and his doctors. I am his advocate, and I need to believe that he is capable, because if I don't believe it, no one else will. And sometimes you just have to have the vision and push forward and trust that, like, if it doesn't happen today, it could happen tomorrow, or it could happen a month from now, or it could happen 5 years from now. You just have to keep trying. That was my journey with finding out that my son is autistic. If you have any questions, I'm really not an expert, but I am, I guess, an expert in navigating hard things. I've been through a lot the last few years. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm also happy to pray for you. If you have any prayer requests in the comments, I'm happy to pray with you and for you. I truly believe in the power of prayer. I truly believe that God can do anything. There's so much more that's going to come out of this experience. I truly believe that. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked the video, and subscribe to my channel.